Yeah, we're gonna go to Poundtown today. So I've been reading your document, and I think we're gonna go almost to page 20. We're gonna go all the way to the first triumvirate. I think that's a good place to finish. And we're gonna have. Are you okay to opening the panel after so that we can get some questions
Yeah,
asked
yeah,
and stuff? Okay, yeah.
for sure,
So I think
for sure.
that is a good place
Yeah,
to be.
after we get through the full block of data, then you can step up and kick holes in my drywall.
So I really like the name of it, the triumvirate theory. I think you called it triumvirate political theory at one point, which I think is a little bit more accurate. But I really thought it was a good one. And
You scroll up for a second.
Mhm.
I just kind of want to explain this esoterica right here.
Okay.
All right, so this is triumvirate theory
It's
it's not even necessarily a flushed out political or metaphysical theory. It is a descriptor of an is. Just it's trying to describe all of the forces and events around us that we can actually observe and interact with.
Mhm.
And it's kind of a natural force in the sense of it's a superfractal. Hence the symbology of the Ouroboros eating its own tail. What this isn't is like my political worldview, my religious or theological worldviews. This is a mental experiment. So all the symbolism, some of the themes you're going to hear, maybe whether it's AIs or Lovecraftian, dark gods. These are all allegories for the mental experiment. So I don't want anybody to think that I am preaching some kind of heresy out here.
All right. I did say I want to say hi to Mo and Kat as well, just in case I didn't say. But I will move ahead from the preface.
That P equal triple X via means threefold.
Mm-hmm.
And the P equals T is a mathematical formula simplified that is population equals technology. And that comes from structural demographic theory.
So it will be population equals technology, and then what's the
We'll get into that. That's the next chapters.
Okay.
Mystery for now.
Let's go ahead and move on. I will move on ahead from the preface, and I will go to the laws of the triumvirate theory. I think it is those are interesting.
Okay.
For what you're saying, these are all observations. So you're trying to go through these from an observational theoretical form, right? So
yes.
What I'm saying by that is you're getting them. If you're talking about an ease, you will be having to use the idea of experimentation directly. So you are observing, and thus you're saying this is how I see thing to be, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the experiment.
We're gonna read them all. If you wanna, I'm gonna read them. If you wanna expand upon them at some point.
An important caveat: this was never prepared as a public presentation. These are notes for myself. So forgive any blank spots, any grammatical errors, any inside jokes. Just so.
Yeah. I thought these were interesting, and I would like to go through them simply because they are like preconditions to some of the ideas. So it's better if we have them on. We're gonna pass some of the
I'm open
some definitions, but I think we can go ahead. So culture and civilization. Wait, I was gonna say, let me read them. Once I'm done, if you wanna say something, you can absolutely just say whatever you need to say. Okay. Culture and civilization are governed and regulated by three archetypal persona schema who serve as pillars of the human social order. The three governing social persona schema are intelligent natural forces existing outside of mankind. And then the three governing social persona schema are collectivist, absolutist, and individualist, distinct in their natures. So you will be saying that you're making pretty much a a
Yes,
triangle, and in each one of these edges will be one of these personas, right?
correct.
The three governing social persona schema are evolutionary fixed. They are primordial. Without them, culture and civilization are not possible, as they are the vehicles for social progress and conservation, ultimately pushing mankind toward progress or technological singularity. The interplay of cooperation, discourse, competition, and synthesis of the three governing social persona schema reveal themselves in historical dialectics that we view as left versus right politics or as the progressive and reactionary forces of history.
And I have an addendum to that now
Mm-hmm.
with more observation. It's also a biological, cultural battle between men and women.
You think so?
Yes, it's been going on for a long time.
Well, we're gonna get there a little bit later on when I have a specific question about that. Human beings operate with a worldview or personality schema that is in support of one of the social persona that regulate cultural and civilizational order. The human psyche is regulated by three factors pertaining to physical needs, emotional desires, and social cooperation, which form core personality, ID, ego, and superego.
Id, the
Oh,
idiom,
id. Yeah.
that little violent thing inside you that says "fuck you" and you're
Uh,
hungry or she's hot.
the one that makes me wanna scream at some leftoids is that it?
It's baser. That depends, though. That could also be the superego or the ego, but this one specifically pertains to like pathological, the pathos and pathological things.
The
Yeah,
pathos.
the children are in trouble now. Would
Alright,
somebody
sounds
think of
good.
the children? Yep.
Human biological nature and social influences drive individual psyches to determine which of the three governing social persona schema an individual will give preference to consciously or subconsciously. And then finally, how individuals prioritize their physical, emotional, and social needs dictates which cultural civilizational schema they are inclined to consciously or subconsciously serve or lend bias to. So one of the observations I would say that is in between these is that every person has to accept one one or two of the schemas, right?
Or a hybrid of it, because
Yeah.
you as an individual are a point inside that triangle somewhere.
So you gotta be either into one of these, or the question would be: is it possible that somebody has the three schemas and are like floating around space here, or is it normally that you
No,
have only two?
I don't think it's in our nature to be able to be all three at once. I don't think we
Mm-hmm.
can even build institutions that are all three at once. And when we try, it ends horrifically.
Okay.
The only thing that comes close to bridging all three at once is the Orthodox Church, but I don't want to really get into that. Jesus is the only thing that can
Yeah,
balance all
it
three.
would be a divine institution you were talking about, and
Mm-hmm.
I really gave you like that idea as well when we had our first talk about this. And I also think that the only thing that could be in between all of them is like a divine institution.
Yeah, the history dialectics show that when we try to force that middle, it ends bad. Or just the exact opposite. One of the Telway will try to take the football and run with it and build
Mm-hmm.
utopia, and that's bad too.
I see. Now I do have a problem with I think therefore I am they are because we are, and this is
Mm-hmm.
the problem is epistemological. Have you heard about the whole problem with I think therefore I am
I mean,
critique?
yeah, you could not be real.
Well,
You
no,
know,
that is not the
your
critique.
AI doesn't think it's real. It's very interesting.
Well, the critique in and of itself is not that. The critique is once if you're going to go through axiomatic ideation in foundationalism,
Mm-hmm.
the I think therefore I am has a bunch of presuppositions
So I
embedded
think I
into
was
them. So
probably drinking a little, one, and then two. For me, this is a metaphor of the interplay. These things aren't like elder gods or true artificial intelligence as we know it, like on your Grok, for instance. But there is an interplay between this natural intelligence and humans. Like with which comes first, the chicken or the egg? It doesn't matter. We're glued to the hip because of the superorganism that is mankind, the thing that makes the school of fish hit that exact 90-degree turn at the exact same time.
Okay, yeah. So you're pretty much just stating. I would see this as like demonic ideations, right? You're talking about these intelligent creatures or intelligent design creatures.
They can very much be demonic, if for lack of a better word. That's one way of looking at it, for sure.
Well, I would say that you could pretty much call them that at some point. It is when you call in the threefold demiurge archons, the masters to the human race. That makes sense to me. That it's pretty much a demonic ideation that you're going forward in the way
Absolutely.
that you're putting them.
And since I started this process 7 years ago, I've just recently finished Nihilism, and there it was laughing at me in the face, like all three tellaway that Father Seraphim Rose rails against as the sources of nihilism, whether you're an extreme collectivist communist, whether you're an extreme anarcho-capitalist individualist libertine, or whether you're the antichrist self-anointed God Emperor tyrant. It's all, or if you serve him like willingly and he's your king, your God king.
Yeah.
These are all just gross forms of nihilism. So it's just like, interesting.
Now, what I found also interesting is when you're describing them, in a sense, they also show what kind of designs they're going towards. In a sense, they all fall into this kind of nihilism at the end, I think, but they have like different ways to lure you towards them, right? Like individualism has the idea of self and has like these idea of power and wealth. Collectivism has
even at the spiritual side. Oh yeah, but at the spiritual level with the individualism too, it becomes that self-ideation, that self-worship at the like spiritual level.
Yeah, I think all of them became the same thing, right? For example, I can use Avery's idea of his machine. I don't even want to say it.
Yeah, I can't say it either. That's son of a bitch. Love you, Avers, but god dang, man.
But I can see it as part of a collectivist ideation, in a sense, and they are doing it by announcing themselves at the same time. It's like, well, everybody's gonna go to heaven, and I did it. So it's like
I would specifically put that under that middle point between collectivism and I would put it at the superstructure that suspends that as a part of the force of totalitarianism itself.
I think it goes absolutely into collectivism. It doesn't.
No, that's the thing. That's the thing, though. It does go into both. It's 100% in both collectivism and absolutism in the form of that totalitarian force.
I can explain that, Mark, real quick. So. Avery's had this argument. It's a very interesting argument if you don't understand some of the preconditions to it. And it pretty much says that since unborn babies go to heaven, why shouldn't we maximize the amount of people going to heaven by deleting all of the unborn babies, you know? So the actual way that I look at it is I have a duty to, one, protect the life of those babies, and two, to stop you and make you play with trees. So it doesn't matter how many. The amount of babies going to heaven has nothing to do with my duties as a Christian, and I can just overpass his whole moral argument of why wouldn't it be good by saying that my morality, since I am a Christian, I have duties to act in accordance to morality, and those are not given by me, but are actually given directly by or they're stated by God and given to us through the church.
Nice.
Um,
This is an allegory. This is setting
Yeah.
up the mental experiment. It's like the trolley car problem or anything like that, where
it is exactly like that, because I know Avarice is not actually trying to get that happen. He's just
no, I was talking about I was talking
Yeah.
about this. The avarices thing.
Oh, I thought you were talking about
that's
Avarice.
that. Yeah, no, I was talking about the slide, just the little narration there. No, avarice's thing is actually like an evil. It's an evil genius in a lot of ways, because the people that are pro-choice, what you notice by the end of his spiel is everybody who's pro-choice is now all of a sudden pro-life.
Yep. Yeah, I did notice that.
And I'm busy punching holes in the drywall. So he got my goat, and then he also like changed the opinions of like baby mutilators and monsters.
Well, it's interesting because they didn't actually change their opinion, but at the same time they're like horrified at it, which I find
they were so horrified that they had to publicly admit that they were like against abortion.
Yep.
Or they were forced to lie and double down to safeguard their ego's perception that they're the good guy, that they're virtuous.
Yep. It's a pretty old argument. It is a pretty old argument. I've heard it before, but yes. So I saw these, and this is the used to put it. You call the Coterva, which is the collectivist, Singula Libertas, which is the libertarians, or the individualist, and then Sumus, which would be the authoritarians, right?
Correct.
And
this looks schizophrenic, but this is actually a map.
It is this slide is a little bit more schizophrenic than the next slides that we're gonna go to, and
I pare them down.
Yeah, and I think this is good as a big old map when you have almost everything. Like I would put that later instead of sooner.
Just while we're there, though, while we're here, I do want people to take note of that green line. That's the left on the left side of it, and that's the right on the right side of it.
Yeah.
And I want to emphasize the cultural mimetic of the left kind of being, and this is just a shotgun blast statement. Don't take it personally, chat. The left is considered to be more emotionally or morally correct, but factually naive or incorrect, and the right is known for being more factually correct, but it's also known as not the moral or nice kind of good. So there's this like juxtaposed symmetry that right there is what we on the surface look at as the left versus right dialectic. This is the shit that always drove me crazy in philosophy. It's just like the base level of looking at the world, left versus right. But there's more going on. There's more factions and players than just left versus right. And then the little triangle inside the triangle, that's the Overton window. Whatever country you're in, depending on the nature of its development and culture, that triangle can slide around inside of the triangle.
I think it's not exactly like that, but we're gonna move a little bit towards it. I understand why you put libertarians there. I would think that libertarians are pretty much in the middle, so it would go from here.
Well, you got to understand that the farther you get up towards that angle of the triangle, the less and less government institution and consensus on absolutely everything there is. You can kind of, in a weird way, lop off that top right corner, and it's like nothingness.
Yeah. I just said
but the triangle,
right
but the
here
triangle
like
itself,
this. And because they lean there's nothing worse than a libertarian, because you never know where the hell they're going, because the wind blows all the ways, right? So
Yeah, and that's that cutting off there. But the greater triangle, the purpose of this that greater triangle is that's the total boundary of like human experience as far as culture and institutions and civilization. There's nothing outside of the triangle.
I would say I do have a couple of things that I think don't
Mm-hmm.
go there, but we can
That's
go
fair enough.
ahead. So Caterva and single liberties, that's republicanism. I think that's perfectly understandable. Single liberties and sumos is or
And the
individualism and
Darwinism is
authoritarianism is Darwinism, and
yeah,
then we have
the Darwinism does not that's not evolution shit. That's social
well, it's
Darwinism and
based on it, but we're gonna go through definitions, so we can go into
Mhm,
definitions in a
mhm.
moment. And then we have the authoritarians and the collectivist, and this is totalitarianism. And I agree with
Correct.
this in a lot of sense. The only thing is I wouldn't put orthodoxy in sumos. I would just put in a different category, altogether.
Well, you can put the orthodoxy in because the Orthodox Church isn't involved in
Well, I would put it
the
in
world,
every single one
the
of them.
world. Yeah, the Orthodox Church isn't involved in the world. The other two have to stay
No, yeah, I agree, but I would say that
because
I would put
they're
orthodoxy in
of the
every single
world.
one of them.
But I would put the Byzantine Empire, or there has to be a note of the thing started because of an absolutist force, the emperor,
Yeah, I agree. That what I'm saying is I see the church as the divine
an institution.
institution that encompasses everything. So I will put them in every single one of them because the church will encompass the collectivist aspect, the individualist aspect, and it will encompass also the authoritative aspect. So it encompasses everything.
Well, I also don't want the church to be tainted by the material because it's
Oh,
not.
I
It's of the world, but it's not of this world. You know what I mean?
I get it, but if we're gonna put it here, I will just put that into perspective. If we're gonna mention it, I will
No,
put
no,
it there. And if we're
that's
gonna
definitely a note and caveat that needs to be corrected because it needs to be more earthly. It needs to reflect like just Byzantine or something like that because of
yes,
the nature of the double-headed eagle.
and then we have the conceptual definitions right here. If you want to give us the Darwinism definition, that's a perfect time to do it. Do you want me to read it for you, or do you want me
You can go.
to?
You can go for it.
So
Go for it.
Darwinism is a theory of the origin of interpretation of a new species of animals and plants that the offspring of a given organism vary. The natural selection favors the survival of some of these variations over others. That new species have arisen and may continue to arise by these processes, and that while divergent groups of plants and animals have arisen from the same ancestors. A social theory that inherent dynamic forces will allow only the fittest persons and organizations to prosper in a competitive environment or situation, right?
Yep. That's the definition that we go with for Darwinism on the social structures. That yellow line, because that's what's going on there at that angle or on that line of the triangle. That's that face or side of the triangle.
Okay. So that was the
Don't
I
worry.
agree.
Don't worry about that. That's just the setup for it. You know.
Yeah. I agree with I don't agree with the first part because I don't think that's exactly what happens
Yeah.
when it comes to animals. I see it as a when it comes
Yeah.
to
You
a
can.
new species or variation of animals, I see it as a miracle. That's the only way that it makes sense to me.
Yeah. There's no missing link, and there's no such thing as evolution because it's
Yeah.
simply you don't even need to dance around theology. Science eliminates it in the form of the law of biogenesis, and we worship a living God. Life only begots life.
Perfect. And then the social theory and dynamic forces. And socially speaking, I do think that happens. There's like evolution in, for example, in language. Like you have
Oh,
a word
absolutely.
and it can change the meaning of the word in accordance to how long it time. But it's a different idea when it comes to the other
Yes,
word.
it's similar. It's similar to memetics, or
Mhm.
just the logic, the logic of genealogies.
Um, is there any other word you wanna have a definition here? We have subjectivism, collectivism, corporativism. dialectic,
If
dysgenic.
you dysgenic's a big one that we don't really hear about too much in the linguistics world.
Okay,
That's the
I can read it and
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
can
You do it. You
expand
do
upon
it.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Dysgenic is tending to promote survival of or reproduction by less well-adapted individuals, such as the weak or diseased, especially at the expense of well-adapted individuals, such as the strong or healthy.
This looks like the left wanting to save absolutely everything and everybody that is some form of a lost cause. This is the nature of the purity ritual where somebody will list out every single thing that makes them a victim. I'm a black, depressed, handicapped, lesbian, you
Yes.
know, and, and that dysgenic force comes from a mutated form of sympathy that has to literally save everything and everybody. It's a devouring mother that will eat everything not bolted down. It becomes like having Munchausen syndrome in a lot of ways, where
Yeah,
the mother is punishing the child for that sympathy.
yeah, I agree. And one of the craziest things I had a well, I don't have a degree or anything, but I've seen my mother had a degree, and she used to work a lot with kids that have problems with speech patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of some people obviously had problems with their kids, or they had some kind of accident or something happened to them. They had trouble speaking in and of itself, and she would go on and help them. But most times, when kids have problems speaking, is because the adults would talk to them like little babies all the way to till they were like 4 or 5, and they
Yeah.
learned the mimetic process that they learned was to talk in a really bad way. So they never actually developed the skill and the way to the speech pattern needed for them to speak normally, and it was done directly by the mother, or not necessarily by the mother, by the adults in their house, that they would speak to them in a very baby like
Mm-hmm.
form.
How do you say that?
Infantilize.
Yeah, yeah, that's the word.
Well, it's not even infantilizing. It's like way worse. Like they were spoken like if they were little babies, and they had that speech pattern engraved in them. And trying to change that was really really hard. And I also saw that with people that had autism. So one of the
It's
best
a dark
ways.
it's a dark tactic to keep at the even if the mother isn't aware of it, but
Mhm.
subconsciously, it's like a forcing of uh, what do you call it when you don't age, when you stay perpetually like 15. But it's a way to force the baby to stay a baby, because
Mhm.
that's the fetish of not a sexual fetish, mind you, but that's the fetish that is being indulged in. That's where the
Well,
desire is.
the thing is that it also happened with the father. It was not only the mother, because
Oh, okay.
a lot of times it was both. Like they would just talk to the kid as it was a baby. Oh, and
Hmm.
even family members would keep on doing that. It was like something
Yeah, that's
that
wild.
was, yeah, it was
Don't you.
wild.
They say you're not even supposed to like talk to pets like they're babies when you're trying to train them.
No, no, you're not. But it was a repeated process, and it stuck there all the way to the point that they had that speech pattern engraved in them. So it's very very the way that I see it is, and I was going to talk about people with autism. The way that you combat like autism is by
Hmm.
granting them things that they can do on their own. And that's the way that you can actually get people to move away from dependency. So if they can, it's like, oh, you're gonna dress yourself, and maybe it's gonna be really hard at the beginning, but you have to do it, so you learn the pattern to do it. It's the same thing with language, right? You start talking to them maybe with little words, and then you start, talking them more normally till the way that they start talking normally. If you keep them in that super infantilized way, you're robbing them of the capacity for them to do what is needed for them to move forward. And I think that is another way of looking at dysgenic behavior. Dysgenic behavior can be seen as that, right?
Yes, and it can also be seen as mass abortion. This is a dysgenic behavior, except the child is now seen as the parasite, and the dysgenic behavior is focused on, preserving the material state of the person having the abortion.
Well, I would see it as the other way, because
because the argument they use is it is a travesty and misfortunate setback to be born poor. So you're really kind of doing this child a service by making it so they never even were, versus living a life of poverty.
Well, I don't see it that way. I see
you haven't heard that argument?
Around. I heard it, but I don't think it's true. I think the argument that people actually use, that they feel is true, is this is gonna set me, and I mean that as mostly the woman, although it happens to men do it too.
Yeah. No, what I'm saying is that justifies that behavior. That's one of the justifications.
But I don't see it as the kid's gonna be in poverty. That's the reason why. What I say is the other way around. It's like, I am gonna be in poverty, and I don't wanna have the responsibility to take care of the kid, and right. that's gonna help. That's gonna affect me. So I see it as dysgenic, but in the other sense, it's dysgenic to the grown-ups, instead of the grown-ups growing up to be like the parents they are. Dysgenic, they're being dysgenic for themselves and staying in this kind of kid state instead of moving forward.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's I haven't really thought of it that way, but that's actually spot on. And when I say like they're doing the service for the kids to never be, because being poor is the hell on earth. That's the cope. That's the cope that they spew out of their mouths to justify their actual wanting to preserve some kind of material state. That greed, or to continue living like a bohemian life. And if you're a materialist, that also includes all the sexual degeneracies and cooming. That's a materialist mindset and worldview.
Yeah, and one of the things about the cooming behavior, in a sense, is that it was regulated due to birth. So you wanted to get to the point of the cooming per se, but at that point you had the responsibility of the birth of the child, and that regulated a lot of that behavior. And since we have, I will put this in quotations because I don't think it's true, but since we have gotten rid of we have ways of not having kids per se, that has freed that aspect of their lives, which I think is wrong. I don't think that is correct.
So we'll cover it later, especially when we look at the biological factors, but and then natural cultural factors such as marriage. The triangle really got rocked once abortion became a mainstream thing. Once sex was decoupled from responsibility and accountability and like shame, like the shame of having a child out of wedlock, it really snapped things. Katerva took the football and ran with it, basically. And she's been sprinting down the fucking the 40-yard line towards the end zone, and she like just got stopped recently at like the fucking shit. Like she's within the 10 yards. She's in the red zone. She got shut down somewhere in the red zone, and it's she's got four downs.
Okay. Damn.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna read two more. Collectivism. I'm gonna read collectivism because it's one of the main points. A political economic theory advocating collective control, especially over production and distribution, a system marked by such control, emphasis on collective rather than individual action or identity. And I think hyperstition.
Yes.
Hyperstition.
Yes, this is exactly how it's pronounced. Hyperstition. I probably spelled it wrong, but it is you can read it, but it is a newer philosophical concept, just like empathy is a newer philosophical concept.
So I haven't read this one, so that's why, and I don't think much people have, so this is why I wanted to read this one. Model no superstition.
Mm-hmm.
Belief not based on reason, that's one's behavior can magically influence events. A cultural belief, especially a work of fiction that makes itself real. A cultural self-fulfilling prophecy where some cultural idea or hype truly brings about the thing it describes. Do you know, this sounds like manifestation?
Yes, manifestation, magic, all that shit is gay and fake. It really is. So the better way to look at this is a goal or a super-oriented goal. There are forces at work that bring it to emergence, that bring it to reality, but it's not like I dream of Genie, I've read The Secret Source, and I'm a fucking, 333rd degree cult member, and now I can, manifest shit. That's no. And this happens at the individual level. It happens at the interpersonal level between, small groups of people, and it happens at the superorganism level, with each of the teloi or the nation state or the community, and then it happens at the global level.
Okay, yeah, I guess what you mean. It's like in the Yahtzees used to say like the manifest future.
Mm-hmm. Yes, their hyperstition got shut down by a much more powerful hyperstition.
We have in America, like the American Dream is kind of a superstition that supersedes.
Is your manifest destiny? Is your manifest destiny bigger than my manifestation?
Exactly.
My manifest destiny. But hyperstition. I just want to put some points on there. Like the oldest hyperstition on Earth is the space shuttle that comes out of the Bhagavad Gita. Things like your cell phone is like a Star Trek hyperstition, or your smartwatch where you can, talk into it and see somebody talking to you in real time. That's the Dick Tracy watch. These are hyperstitions.
Okay.
And they are parallel with superstitions as far as like cultural memetics and functionality, because they are the children of memetics, of the meme, and memes behave like genes.
Okay.
So, yep.
I will read Kantianism because I think it's important, even though all of it is important, but I think Kantianism is not understood, and I thought this was a very well put idea of what Kantianism is. The philosophy of Immanuel Kant endeavors to synthesize the traditions of continental rationalism and British empiricism by holding that phenomenal knowledge is the joint product of precepts given to us through sensation organized under the form of intuition of space and time, and of concepts or categories of the understanding, but that reason involves itself in fallacies if it tries to apply to the noumenal the principles of understanding applicable only to the phenomenal, so that the speculative ideas of God, the world, and self, although having heuristic import, represents regulative knowledge as distinguished from the constitutive knowledge about the phenomenal, at the same time that the idea of God, freedom, and immortality represent necessary presuppositions for morality.
Yes.
It's a lot. It's a lot of words.
It's a whole lot of words.
But I agree that it's pretty much saying that you need to have good reasons for the understanding of reason and knowledge. So it's
and out of Kant comes concepts like empathy, and then We get mental experiments like the transcendental argument.
I don't think Kant does empathy. I might be wrong, but
that's what he's talking about. I want to break the world of this yaya sisterhood traveling pants form of empathy and think more of a predator with two eyes in the front of its head to judge depth. Predators have higher intelligence, and you're doing modeling. It is an act of mentalism. You're taking limited information and data and sensory input, and you're formulating a correct conclusion. And that's the point. You're not truly being empathetic or empathin, if you will, unless you are correct about whatever subject you're talking about.
Well, I would say that it's more of a sympathetic form, especially if you're talking about predators. How is it possible that predator has any kind of idea what the prey is feeling? It's more of a sympathetic response.
No. Sympathy is the act of feeling, and that act of feeling, true feeling, and it's biological. That's the only thing we know about it, is that there is a biological reaction to it in the form of they know that you're feeling some sort of an emotion. Emotions are subjective. They just know you're having an authentic emotional experience.
That's true sympathetic. But I could say that even a person that doesn't have the feeling of said emotions are still used under sympathetic. And I know this because that's exactly the thing they're describing. People that have no real emotions.
Well, what I'm getting at is just the difference is we're saying the same thing. Like there's a breakdown.
We're quabbling over words. We're quabbling over the word.
Right. The breakdown is the same, though. There is some kind of lack of feeling compared to the intuition. So with the skin conductance reaction tests, it's twofold. It's the biological side, and they hook you up to sweat sensors. They watch your pupils dilate, and they monitor your heart rate. So that's what they're tracking your feelings, and it's not just for this is just for Eddie. Hold on. This is the sympathetic side. Hold on. This is for any type of arousal, sexual arousal, anger arousal, serendipitous arousal, the whole spectrum. They don't know which one you're feeling when you see the thing. They just know that you're feeling something. The next part, the first part, and this is how the control of the experiment and the methodology works.
Okay.
And that's why I was it's methodology is always important. Methodology, the methodology is they show you pictures, and this is supposed to represent the empathetic side, the mentalism, the mind reading, the model making. They show you pictures or videos, or they'll tell you, they'll just speak to you and tell you scenarios that you're supposed to think about. And the video could be, or the picture could be people smiling, crying, kissing. And the subjects on this, allegedly, are supposed to be, letting the cameraman or the control of the experiment know what they were feeling at the moment of that picture snap. So but you'll look. Hold on, you gotta let me get through the methodology. You watch the videos, and it'll be things like someone's crossing the street, and there's a vehicle approaching behind them, but the video stops right before impact. What's going to happen? It's this ability is also contingent on intelligence, specifically conscientiousness. The ability to be aware, and not just volume of data, but quality of data. So you take the little battery, and there's a scoring system on it. If you get these right, we can argue their methodology in the sense of, how do you know the camera turned off? How do you know that the person got hit by the bus or not? How do you know the person in the photo
Well,
wasn't really
I
pissed
wouldn't
off.
even contest that. My question
But
would be which part of the sympathetic system is actually being used, and I don't think we have any kind of methodology to say which one it is.
this is the conclusions that they put down. This isn't my own shit. I'm just
No, I get it.
regurgitating
I
that.
understand. Yeah.
So the scoring is completed. And what they do is they, based on the answers that you give for the empathetic side, or what they're calling the empathetic side, they look over and see if you're feeling anything when this is going down. So it looks like you see the picture of two people kissing, right? And you correctly guess that they're feeling love or passion or whatever. Or sexual arousal. Then they look over and then they see if you actually felt something. Most people, when you show them the picture of the puppy and they say, or not the puppy, excuse me, of like the smiling baby, and they say the baby looks happy. When you look at their actual nervous system, there's a ping going on. That they're feeling something. So what they notice is, like, especially in antisocial personality disorder with psychopaths, and this is like fundamentally challenging the bedrock of what they thought is empathetic, what they think is psychopathy.
They don't see the sympathetic system flare up.
Yes, they don't see the sympathetic system flare up. So what we know with these type of psychopaths is that they emulate the emotions, or they're like predators. They're highly tuned at knowing what the other is thinking, feeling, experiencing, and expressing, and that's what allows the psychopath to manipulate the situation, because and then prey on people because of their heightened level of empathy, of which they can come at you like, how many psychopaths have been arrested as nurses. They're busy jabbing somebody up, doing them like the Munchausen syndrome thing, or firefighters that set fires so that they could be there to put it out, or that cop that sprinkles a little bit of crack on somebody, and then arrest them.
So I understand, and I understand that part of the idea. It begs the question. It still begs the question, right? Because they're measuring the sympathetic system, and they're still trying to see if it's sympathetic. So it begs the question of how are they measuring empathy if they're using a system that is completely sympathetic.
Well, that's the point. The emotions are subjective.
Okay, exactly.
You can't even fully measure and know what emotion somebody is feeling outside of we know they're feeling it.
Correct.
The assumption is the empathy is this ability to read minds, and I think that there's a big word concept fallacy just as it's understood now.
Well, I don't think it's the ability to read minds. It's the ability to be a psychopath.
I know, but that's their definition. That's their definition of it.
Well, let me put it this way.
The Oxford definition of empathy is literally mind-reading.
I get the idea, but let's put it this way. We just went to the methodology. The methodology is people will go ahead and use the sympathetic system in order to try to understand the way that other people are feeling and share on said feeling. The psychopaths, what they do is they mimic it in accordance to what they believe the other person should be feeling. Thus, the idea, even if we go through that definition, even though I don't agree at all with empathy, I would still say that empathy would be the way in which psychopaths act to try to manipulate people by using empathy, because they don't have access to any kind of sympathy.
That's my whole. That's like the backbone of my point. and I think that their methodology is the closest thing we have right now to being able to measure. It could be completely wrong, but the whole point is you're not truly empathizing if you're incorrect. So in their scoring system, you don't get the empathy points unless you're correct about your guesses. And then they measure to see if you're feeling anything on what you are correct about.
But I would put that in the same.
For me, when I went through my PTSD treatment with the Army, they said I was still downrange. And that I act like I'm still downrange as far as monitoring everything for fight or flight reflex. And that was sense. I had all the empathy in the world. I was like maxed on empathy, and I had no sympathy whatsoever.
Well, I would say empathy is working in the same way that I would call hyperstation. Like that would be a hypostatic state of the mind in which you are pretty much using some kind of metaphysical ideation of things that are not necessarily there. I would put that in the same place as
I just call it model building. You're running simulation models in your head at light speed.
But I would put the same thing as a person using magic or something like that. It's just a
magician trick. It's the parlor trick of the mentalist, and this is why I say that men are the empaths, and that women are the simps.
I still think I would say, just finally on that note, I would say that it is that's the case. If that is the case, it would still be fake and gay. Now we can move.
I know being empathetic sucks, but actually I agree with Andrew Wilson. We're the fairer fucking species. We're the ones that come up with the great romances.
I don't.
We're the ones that fucking come up with the great romantic sagas. We're the ones ultimately responsible, and this is ontology. We're the ones ultimately responsible for the family. There's no pain like the betrayal of a father, betraying a father. The purpose of being self-sacrificial could, when you think about it, just the dry mechanics of it are really only done by men. It's a man who jumps on the grenade for his battle buddies, regardless of his religious convictions. It is the man who is able to in politics. Let's look at the left and the right as far as family.
But I don't think there's that much difference.
This is the top 10. This is the top 10. This is huge because this encompasses our triangle. On the left, family doesn't make the top 10 political objectives or concerns for men or women of the left. It does, however, appear for men and women on the right, but in different chronological order. It is the fifth most important thing in hierarchy for right-leaning women, and it is the number one concern of right-leaning men. So we are the empaths. We are the true caretakers. They have sympathetic nurture. We, as fathers or would-be fathers, have empathetic nurture.
Okay.
Son, don't stick your finger in that electrical socket. You're going to get electrocuted. And then when he does it, you're like, yeah, you dumbass. I told you it was going to happen.
No, I understand that, and I kind of agree with some of the premise. What I was thinking more of is I don't think that is empathy. I think that is
no, I get you.
Because empathy, I would put empathy the same thing as magic, and if I put it in the same place, it's a different idea. I think
men are way more attuned. Magic, though.
Magic. Well, the way that I would define it is it's a lie. So what you do when you do any kind of divination of magic, and this is why you're not supposed to do any of that, is you're lying because you don't know the future. The future cannot be known because you cannot know the mind of God. Thus, everything that you say that is about the future, even when you're talking about scientific forms, one of the reasons that they say this is the best we can predict instead of this is what's going to happen, is because chaos theory and 100 different variables are there that you cannot just be
That's fun for later.
100% of. Yeah, we will.
Yeah, that's so much fun for later, because that's where like our three body problem comes into play. You
There
can't see
is.
the future.
So I'm gonna go read mimetic, and I'm gonna move on ahead a little bit more quickly with the definitions. Although there's a billion definitions, which I think is fun.
Yeah, yeah. I just I felt it
No, it's
important to
really
put
good.
the
It is
key things
actually
in here, so it doesn't, because what I want to highlight with the definitions is that this isn't my shit. This is all Oxford shit, and I
it
wanted
is.
to build models with. I wanted to build a model that I'm not using my own pieces for language sake. Like linguistics is important.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
is
yes.
it's our operating system, and then credibility is important. Like, if nobody knows, if I can't ground this to anything, then what the fuck are we even doing here?
It is really good that we have the definitions, by the way, because a lot of these definitions will be used, and it's important to have it. So, mimetic is relating to or consulting an element of culture or system of behavior that is passed from one individual to another by imitation or other non-genetic means, is a theory of evolution of culture based on Darwinian principles, with the meme as the unit of culture. The term meme was coined by biologist Richard Dawkins in his 1976 book The Selfish Gene to illustrate the principle that he later called universal Darwinism. All evolutionary processes depend on information being copied, varied, and selected, a process also known as variation with selective retention. The conveyor of the information being copied is known as the replicator, with the gene functioning as the replicator in biological evolution. And I thought this is very interesting because you're pretty much putting up the evolution in terms of the culture, which I think mirrors more of the culture, that mirrors more of the biological ideation. But that's a good one.
And just highlighting this fractal mystery, because at the end of the day, there are parts of this that are hopelessly mystery.
Correct. That will read political trichotomy. This is the three-telos model, which is your model. The explanatory model of political ideology is a way to describe political beliefs based on the core axiom of the philosophy called a telos. The three-telos model is based on the concept of a ternary plot, where the different underlying philosophies can be mixed but must sum up the totality of the person's ideological position. This is a departure from the standard Cartesian spaces, such as the two-dimensional political spectrum. I will have to correct you here for a moment, and it's the fact that even if it's a triangle, it's still Cartesian, because the Cartesian is just the plane, and you can draw a triangle in a plane, and you can have even a triad in the way that you model the thing in Cartesian space.
I would need an extra plane. I need a Z to make it like three-dimensional. I think if we do blow it out like 3D, then it would still retain a pyramid shape. But
yes,
I don't know how it would be in something, and that something would be the rest of the three-dimensional shape. Something of a thumbprint of God.
Not necessarily. You can plot. Remember, Cartesian space is not binary. It's not like a two dimension.
Right.
The two dimensions doesn't mean that you
it just be suspended in an infinite God.
No. We're talking mathematics. In the Cartesian plane, you can draw a triangle. Thus, it's still Cartesian. It's not about the philosophizing of it. I'm just talking about the mathematics of it.
Oh, I'm tracking.
Just 1 second. Money talks. It says, Saint says, just 5 times listen for 5 minutes for not getting my ID right. And for calling Scott a baby. Thanks so much, Saint, for the 5. Thus, I will go ahead and accept that. You're gonna get a 5-minute timeout. And it starts now and put you in timeout. I will also go ahead and put this on chat. And
what just happened?
I got a money talks. I got a donor.
Sweet. So am I in
Yeah.
timeout now?
No, not you. It's somebody in chat. But I have to read it, and
Oh, go for it. No, I'm so used to getting put in timeout on online spaces that I fucking.
No, you are free. You cannot be put in timeout. We are in Poundtown with Trench Deacon right now. It's just money talks. I'm just being doing as good for my chat as I can. So I'm gonna put this up and then show it out to the world. So I will put here. I didn't put in 5 minutes. I also put it in the chat. So if you want a donut to be highlighted, you can just send it to me, and I will highlight it for everybody, and I will read it. Sorry for that. Let's go ahead and continue. Okay, let's move on for a little while.
Give me 1 second. My GoPuff just got here with my beverages.
Okay.
Gotta love America.
Yeah, we're gonna take then just a moment to a little bit of an intervention. I wasn't here, so I don't know what happened. Well, they were fighting a little bit in chat, and what we've been doing is just go through definitions for the whole philosophical terms. I'm gonna go ahead and give it real quick. We're talking about a conceptualization of the world is based in collectivism, individualism, and authoritarianism, and we have these in-betweens: republicanism, Darwinism, and totalitarianism. And we're just been going through definitions right now. Next so far has been hyperstition, which allowed me to say that empathy is actually just fake and gay. And
yes. But also strangely weird thing.
Also, we realize that empathy is a thing that is done by psychopaths, which is funny because Kat was called a psychopath for saying that that empathy was kind of gay.
Oh, Kat's keyed a bitch's car before. She's don't get in her way. She'll pull up.
Pull up.
I love America though, man. Go Puff. If you don't know nothing about stupid green screen shit. Anyway, Go Puff, man. It's where it's at. They straight bring you groceries, snacks, candy, and adult beverages.
Oh, that's great. Man,
right,
I'm getting thirsty. You know what we're gonna do? You're gonna have to talk to chat for just a moment. I'm gonna go ahead and get myself some water because that's what I have to drink. I'm gonna ask you.
I was out of everything, so I'm like,
I'm gonna ask you to entertain them for just a moment. But before we do that, and as a way to give you space, we can talk a little bit. Which one do you enjoy? Techno-commercialist? Do you think you can expand upon that one?
Yeah. I think I might have accidentally left one out too, because these are actually my... Okay, so I do come up with 3 original concepts, and these are the fulcrums on the edges of the sides of the triangle, the middle point on the sidelines.
Right. You're on your own. I'll be right back. I can hear you, but I'll be getting some water.
Well, techno-commercialism is they're definite free markets sharing with other ultra-capitalists such as radiant objectives, a preoccupation with efficiency, a blind trust in the power of the free market. Now, this one isn't my concept. That is techno-commercial militantism or tribalism. But anyway, back to techno-commercialist. A blind trust in the powers of the free market, private property, globalism, and the onward march of technology. However, they are also believers in the idea of small states, free movement, and absolute or feudal monarchies with no form of democracy. The idea of exit, predominantly a techno-commercialist viewpoint, but found among other neo-reactionary. So this is a neo-reactionary philosophy. It essentially comes down to the idea that people should be able to freely exit their native country if they are unsatisfied with the government. This is also known as patchwork. Essentially, an application of market economics and consumer action to statehood. So each state is kind of a corporation, and nobody has any real rights outside of you can leave. You vote with your dollar and you go to the next corporate state. Indeed, countries are often described in corporate terms, with the king being the CEO and the aristocracy being shareholders or board members. So yeah, my original concept is techno-commercial tribalism or militarism. It's things like Genghis Khan, the Dutch Indies Trading Company, the Vikings. These are not these are things that don't necessarily represent a state, but they can also represent the state, whether it's like being contracted. So in the British model of colonialism, you know, the king's nephew is in the aristocracy, and I wouldn't give him a direct title of governor via the lines of, you know, the royal family or the royal institution. Instead, I will give him his title through a venture contract, specifically through like the Crown City of London.
Okay.
So he'll be the warden of one of the livery companies or something, or a trade guild. He's the master of that guild. He's in the colonies operating, and while he's the head of that corporation, then I just go ahead and toss him the title of governor because he's effectively doing the job.
I found it fun. I found it very interesting that the examples you mentioned there were also extremely militaristic, like the Vikings, Genghis Khan.
Yes.
I would say probably the Huns will be there too.
Yes. I mean, we could probably pick history apart with it. The point is, you have this kind of nomadic organization. There is a principle for individualism. Example, you know, the Dutch Indies trading all the different trading companies were Protestant individualists. The Golden Horde, you could be a Christian, a Jew, a Muslim, a Confucius, Buddhist, Taoist. It didn't matter. You had that right. There is a tendency to let women have more rights. You think that, yes, the Vikings were, you know, a patriarchy. The Congonite were a patriarchy, but their women had more leverage, the ability to inherit or own property and wealth. Property is a huge part of this, and property ownership.
As the basis, right? You
yes,
because as a commercialist, you need to be able to have private property.
They are traders. When you think of like cashmere and mullahs, you know, this is where it comes from.
Now I want to move on right now.
Yeah, but that last part though, it is contingent. All of them are on the cutting edge of technology, especially with warfare.
Yeah, makes sense. We're gonna go to teleology, the study of evidences of the sign in nature, a doctrine as evolution is an immanent ends or immanent in nature. A doctrine explains phenomena by final causes, the fact that character to nature or natural processes of being directed toward an end or shaped by a purpose, the use of the sign or purpose as an explanation of a natural phenomena. So pretty much the teleology is just telling you that there is a purpose to the existence. Otherwise, it would be a disteleological universe. Well, the way
Yep.
I see it is that that's the possibilities. Either you live in a teleological universe or a disteleological universe.
And that's where you kind of it gets dicey. Where does free will is? Are we talking about determinism? Are we talking about predeterminism? Blah blah blah.
Well, I would say that the determinism, even in predeterminism or determinism, the way that I break the symmetry in all of that is the immanence of God, because the part of his power is the fact that he can have mercy, right? There, it's like we deserve death, and yet we got the mercy of God in our hands, and it was by His will that we got it. Even so, the only way that when do you remember the story of the guy that got eaten by a whale or by a big fish? I remember his name right now. Jonah. Yeah. So
yeah, he was supposed to go somewhere and do something for the Lord, and he didn't.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't go there. He gets swollen. The Lord says, "You have to do what I tell you." He goes over there, and he's a prophet, so his word is pretty much law because he's talking for the Lord, and he tells them that they're gonna get destroyed. And then, when it finally is supposed to happen, the people in the city actually repent and they bathe themselves in ashes and they pray for forgiveness and for. They pray not to be destroyed, and so God gives them mercy, and Jonah gets very mad because that would mean that he was not, in his eyes, he is not talking for the Lord anymore, because what he said was going to happen didn't happen. And then, God the Lord creates the grape, and he eats from them, and at the end, the grape dies, and he gets mad at God, and he's like, well, what did you do? I did it all. It's my domain, I decide. And it makes it is very interesting that we go through this kind of. I know I'm getting very into theological, and you're doing an is, but I'm just saying that if I'm working on an is statement, I cannot come with a conclusion of our universe that is not determined. Because as I was telling a person before, if I think of any system in which a prime thing happened, that prime thing happened is determining what will happen next in a series of succession events. Thus,
Right.
there is the only way I see the breaker in the symmetry is with a theological ideation of a being that is immanent and is able to act in the world as he desires.
Yeah, what I was doing there when I brought it up was just highlighting when we start talking about teleologies, it just by default you're going to run into the nature of all this is causal, right?
Mm-hmm.
If and then. So if we do too much if and then, a lot of people will look at this and be like, well, you can make predictions with this. And it's like, yes, you can make predictions with it, but that's not correct. You can make like probabilities with it.
Well, even predictions will entail that there is some kind of determinism. Otherwise, how can you predict anything?
Right. And then how does it, quote unquote, empathy work then?
Yep. Well, empathy doesn't work. Stop using empathy.
I'm going to use the textbook definitions because that's the language, and if I'm forced to use them, because we do live in a linguistic warfare, and I think that's one of the things on the right we've done. I did a debate recently. I don't know, a week ago, I can't remember. With like the first honest leftists. I'm still shocked by it because he's the only one who ever gave me a real number about like what the limit on immigration should be. So he stood out to me as a real one because he's the only one who's ever done it.
Oh yeah, which one? Well, what is the number? I'm curious.
It was 1 million. I mean, I set him up for it. 1 million annually is but it wasn't a fixed number. It was like if we're in the position where we can take it on, somewhere in between a million and zero.
Okay, I get it.
But that's the historic marker. That's what it's been. So that's why I set him up with that question. But to me, he proposed a really challenging statement back that I've kind of been thinking about since, and that is on the right, because he spurred out on us for a second. He's like, no, because he's like, we were complaining about like the institution capture of the media, the education system, and so on. And he was like, well, where's the right? You were once a part of these institutions and had more sway over it. Well, where are your artists? Where are your philosophers? Where are your the quote unquote cathedral? Where's your cathedral at?
Well, we're getting there, boy. Don't worry about it.
And I thought it was a well met argument, and I'm like, hey, I think we're creeping back in it.
I've made this argument before.
If right leaning people like us have been through art school, and some of the philosophies, that's a marker right there.
I've made this argument before. The argument I've made about it is when the right pretty much allied itself, or when the authoritarians allied themselves with the libertarians, in a sense, they forgot the arts because the libertarians say that you should only do that what creates capital. So if you look at what an artist does, a lot of the time it will fail. And not only it will fail, it doesn't create value in and of itself. It takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of effort to get to a point in which the artist can actually live by themselves, by the way that by what they're doing, right? It's and it gets worse because if the economy sucks, that means that there's going to be even less people who are going to be able to have any kind of sway in artistic endeavor. The better the economy is, the higher the rate of people being able to enjoy not doing something that is uber necessary. And that's what
the mathematical formula of population equals technology will come into play when we get into structural demographic theory at a later time.
Yep, I agree. I will read Tsarism because I don't think many people know it. It's the government of Russia under the Tsars. Autocratic rule, dictatorship, despotic and autocratic government. I understand why you put it there, but I just want to read it because it's not something that we usually talk about.
Yeah, people look at monarchy and they confound that with Tsarism or fascism.
Well, Tsarism, if I'm not mistaken, was monarchical.
Yes, it's like all socialist states or all communist states are socialist, but not all socialist states are communist, kind of thing. Every tyrant is a monarch, but not every monarch is a tyrant. If that makes sense.
I will take just a second just to say congratulations, Robert. Hope you have way more days like that one.
There's my militant tribal commercialism.
Yes, militant tribal commercialism. But we're going to talk about this one in a little sense. I want to talk about misarchism. A political philosophy that involves a hatred of authority and rejection of government. It can also be described as a combination of dislike of government with a support for traditional morality and the state. Misarchism is different from libertarianism and social conservationism, though there is an overlap in philosophy. Are you talking about minarchism as well, or is it a different term?
No, this is like misandry.
Oh, okay.
The actual hate.
The actual hate of government. Mm-hmm.
And that can even be like in authority too, like why people hate, the quote unquote high church.
I will read real quick. Supranationalism, the idea of forming governments or organizations that are made up of more than one country, affecting or having jurisdiction over more than one nation, transcending national boundaries, authority, or interest. This is pretty much the idea of globalism, right? Supranationalism.
Kind of, but supranationalism is also the bulwark of imperialism.
Ah, okay.
Like like America, all the great hegemonies, but America was founded as an empire, essentially. It's been an empire from day
yes,
one.
it's been an empire, and I think it's fine that it's an empire. I don't have a problem with it. In fact,
I prefer it.
yeah, it is preferable. It's preferable that your empire is the one that's winning instead of the other empire, right? Okay, we're gonna go to conceptual thinking, and we're gonna go into more, but this is good enough. So this one I really like.
Let's hit. Can we go up though? Because I want to give people a feel of what we're going to know down to that list.
To the conceptual thinking.
No, yeah, just down one more.
Dare to know, but can't. Conceptual thinking.
Yeah,
you want me to
no, go down one more slide. 17. Yeah.
Oh, foundational concepts and abstractions.
Yeah, so this is kind of like. So I was inspired by a guy named Mark Widowson, and I can put links in the back chat later if anybody's curious in the chat. He's kind of been my mentor. I've been in communication with him before. I'll flash him little bits and pieces of my work. He's super encouraging, and he's like a super teacher. So if you're curious about, especially like mathematics and like forensic history, he is just next level. He got me thinking in this more holistic sense of history. Having a holistic view of history has like changed my world so much, and I've loved every step of it. So this is the application of that holistic discipline. So triumvirate theory is a Frankenstein of a multitude of disciplines and schools of thought, mental experiments, and like science and physics and biology. So we went through all those definitions. We're gonna go. The theory is about the archetypes of history, political philosophies. Number 4 is like explaining the schema of worldview of each teloi. What is its schema? What's its goal? We want to have a background knowledge of like Aristotle's 3 forms of government and rhetoric. It's a little bit of comparative religion, just from the doctrinal standpoint and historic standpoint. We're not going to touch theology. There's Moldbug in the cathedral. So one of the definitions that we read earlier with the techno-commercialism.
Yeah.
This comes out of the reactionary philosophy of Moldbug, and then former collectivist socialist Nick Land they hate him now. They think he's Hitler, but he's not. He's something else. He's in between the absolute and the individual. Moldbug's theories. Theoretical history is there's a book that Mark Widowson wrote called A Gentle Introduction into Theoretical History. And that's this whole big timeline. We're talking thousands and thousands of years, Neolithic man to now. And then just the sea of disciplines. So a theoretical historian versus like an expert in, let's say, the Renaissance, right?
Okay.
The Renaissance expert is the surgeon that can give you every detail of his specific area of interest in the Renaissance. A theoretical historian can give you all of the details and events that led up to whatever that event is that the traditional expert is looking at. So we might not be able to describe it in the detail, the Renaissance in the detail of the expert, but we can blow him completely out of the water when it comes to the events and forces leading up to whatever he is uh, uh, describing or lecturing.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's just the holistic versus the magnifying glass. Next, there's a theory of like cultural genesis between these three teloi, and that's kind of bound by genetics and biology. There's the ocean. There's breaking into psychology now. There's the ocean model of personality.
Yep.
So who you are, your persona, how you are or how you came to be you, and then what is your impact or station or place in the greater superorganism. And then at the superorganism level, whether it's the nation state or an ethnic group, or even like just say like the men of the West, America, Canada, all the English speaking countries in Europe. That's one form of the superorganism that will have a personality and persona of its own. Then we're going to look at the other side of that, the mental disorder. So if we're going to say that everything is built on desires and personality, then we got to look at, like, we can look at the positive motivating factors, but we really also have to acknowledge the negative behaviors and tendencies that are latent in personality. Because I don't think that the personalities or the disorders are just there because God hates us. I think there is a natural. I view them as like a natural self-defense mechanism for the persona. Something really terrible happened to somebody, so there is some kind of schism in the mind. There's a stunted or an arrest of development, and a whole new persona is like fabricated to protect the core identity of the human. And at the superorganism level, what's the old adage? It's only psychopaths that want to get into politics. Only a psychopath would want to rule over all kinds of people. Or, actors. A lot of actors are kind of histrionic.
Well, I don't think that's the case when you have when the population has been given the idea that there is no superordinate purpose in politics, for example.
Yeah,
so I can see that as
it's that nihilism. It's like Father Seraphim Rose says, when the nihilism, when the persona of the species enters into the red zones and things start breaking down culturally and civilizationally, the personality disorders like ramp up. It's the canary in the mine. 5 generations, like just looking at the Black community, 5 generations of single motherhood are a mental disorder producing engine. So then the population, when the superorganism or the nation state is under duress or collapsing or failing, or there's a breakdown in the teloi, the populations themselves become disordered, and it just creates this feedback loop until the weird thing is some kind of psychopathic leader, for instance. One man's psychopath is also another man's Alexander the Great.
Okay, I just think that there has to be a little bit. As I said, it's like one of the reasons why I enjoy some of the Federalist Papers. It has to do with the idea that you need if you want to have a proper society, you need to have an ethical population, right?
Yes, so, well, another thing to look at this too is like cops and criminals and soldiers fit the same antisocial profile, and it's kind of like a bastardized form of Revelations, who's like the beast who can make war against him, kind of thing. We need these people at the same time as the really, really bad ones. They are a harm to society. So it does create this weird balance where you have these broken people who become exemplars or defenders of other human beings because of their terrible experience. That somehow, some way, and you can make, religious claims here that maybe someone found Jesus or something. They were a sinner. They recognized the monster within, and somehow they were able to take this dysfunctional, disordered thing and even form some of the negative traits, like a comfort of violence, into something positive, like being a police officer or a soldier, where you're out protecting people as opposed to robbing them.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's what I mean by, like, I don't think any of this is by coincidence.
Well, I just don't think there's such thing as a bad person in and of themselves by the way of their psychopathy or what people might.
Yeah. There's only bad people. There's only bad people in the form of worse sinners.
It's either you're bound by duty. You're either duty bound or not, in a sense.
Let's hold on. There's a couple more key. I'll blast through these ones. I won't go through the diatribe. There's the mental disorders. There's the Freudian psyche and the Jungian archetypes. Those two are foundational to all this, because this model is kind of like Freud's the left hemisphere of the brain, and Jung is the right hemisphere of the brain. There's the matrix of persona that we construct here. There's the trivium and quadrivium, and also we'll highlight different weird systems of 3 folding into 4 and back. It's like the universe is full of 3s and 4s. Get used to it. Let's see here. Intelligence and artificial intelligence, defining those and looking at what they are and what they're not. Chaos theory, game theory, and the 3-body problem. So 16 through 19 right there all have this weird, 16 through 21 with hyperstition and memetics all have this weird interplay with each other. Popular culture, so many of our stories are articulating this, whether it's Fallout New Vegas, whether it's the Expanse sci-fi series, Lord of the Rings, Star Trek. We're highlighting the telai over and over and over again. Triads and quadrants, I already said that. And then finally, how all this works, triumvirate theory itself, when, in my opinion, understood correctly and visualized, it kind of operates like a Wankel rotary engine, where you have...
It might operate that way when it comes to civilizations in the long term, but I don't think it applies to individuals. Individuals usually...
No. That's not... The individual is not the focus in that model. In the model, it is just a wedge, a triangle wedge, that the people would be the fuel, that because we have to have that P equals T thing. Yeah. But the wedge is those 3 forces. We're the fuel air mixture that is being compressed and ignited and then expelled when we die. But a rotary engine is still like your conventional cylinder engine in the sense of it's a 4-stroke motor. There is a intake cycle, a compression cycle, a power stroke, and an exhaust cycle. And yeah, that's it.
Okay. I really like that you put the equality, liberty, and fraternity Okay.
Yeah, you'll see
And
memes
I
because I
can.
was making memes. Like some of these pictures, you'll notice like the little logos, the crown. You saw that
Well,
Pythagorean square at the top because that's its geometric shape. Because there's
mhm.
more collectivists, fewer individualists, and even fewer absolutists.
I
Like
don't
as
think there are
demographic.
fewer absolutists. No, I don't think. I don't think
But,
so.
but but what makes the right left paradigm so interesting is that the individualists and absolutists team up more often than not, just by nature of the thing.
Well, you cannot have liberty without a system.
Mm-hmm.
They presupposes force every single time. Without force, there cannot be any liberty.
And that's where
So
that they have the monopoly on force, the individualist and the absolutist. But I'm
I
showing
will
you.
I will go ahead and just say that I really enjoy that you put the French Revolution in hell, which is where they belong. So yeah, I think if you really want to like explain it, this is perfect because it tells everything you have to know. So it tells you where the individuals lie, what is their ideation, which is liberty, collectivist, egalitarians, and absolutes. It's fraternity. Although fraternity is not about brotherhood, it's about family in and of itself.
Yeah, it's well, fraternity is interchange of blood, and like in the philosophies when I was looking throughout the ages, they consider civic nationalism blood.
I can see that because most of the
It's
ethnos,
Rome.
because the states were ethno states, and they were always ethno states until 5 minutes ago. So
Well,
if
yes.
you go to any state that has ever existed, they were all ethno states, until 5 minutes ago.
Well, and it's interesting you say that because like so Rome, you have the patricians and the plebeians, right?
Mm-hmm.
The patricians, the patrician class, are the true Romans. That well, they consider that if you were a plebeian, you were considered a Roman. Still, you were a citizen, had force of law and protection of law. But the you had more rights as a patrician, and you had more duties as a patrician. For instance, military service.
Yeah.
And the patricians were the ethnic group of Etruscan descended Latins that established the beginning of Rome, and the first monarchies. And they stayed the de facto rulers of Rome till like the late imperial season when the plebes finally started, when the plebes finally infiltrated the throne. But so Rome was always a multinational operation or conglomerate, but it was controlled by an ethno group.
I'm not joining. Yeah, I agree with you, and it has, for example, Caesar was one of the who became like the precursor of the empire. He
Mm-hmm.
belonged to a patristic family that wasn't very rich.
Yep, and that it also goes to show you the nature of it too. You can be of the patrician. He wasn't rich. He was no Brutus. But on the flip side of that coin, you have people like Crassus, Crassus, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
Crassus, he was the Elon Musk of the Roman Empire. He was power balling, and it's
Did you know
funny.
how he made his money?
Because
Because
a
people don't know.
slave empire first, but
No, that wasn't
no,
it.
but he was a real estate mogul.
Uh-huh.
But and then how he blew up as a real estate mogul is he bought a bunch of slaves and said, "Okay, you guys are going to be firefighters."
Uh-huh.
And by Roman law, if you put out a fire of a burning house, you got like a deed or a lien that you got to put on that house. So by the
No,
end of
no, no,
it,
no, not exactly. What he did is he got every single one of the firefighters in the city were under his command, and fires started raging. And he would go and tell the people that he could put out the fire if they sold the property to him, and he got like a bunch of bathhouses and a bunch of luxury estates very, very cheaply.
yeah,
And
the whole thing was a scheme for him to
yeah.
just gobble up property.
Uh huh. Yeah, that was
What's
Machiavellian. That he's a
super
interesting
Machiavellian,
character.
but also very, very individualist, very
He
capital.
was also the way that he died is very is like
Well,
poetic in a
the way the
sense.
whole triumvirate died. Each of them was a teloi essentially,
Hmm.
and each of them died outside of their political, cultural, or what do you say, their profession, their true profession and calling. Crassus died getting his ass kicked in the middle of the desert because he didn't have the military diplomacy and foresight to hire local national scouts in like cavalry. Caesar dies in the court when he belonged out in the field, but he died in the political
Senate.
chambers
Hmm.
in the Senate, where he was never really that strong. And then Pompey died after taking a shot at being the one.
Well,
After being the collectivist, and then
I
he had to run up,
disagree.
and then he had to cut tail and run, and then was ultimately, you know, stabbed in the back in Egypt.
Hmm. I do
So
disagree in a sense, and I only disagree because I think that Caesar was very strong as a political actor. He was not his greatest strength.
well, he wasn't
And
the political savvy guy. He was the guy
oh
out
no, he was a
doing it.
political savvy,
Don't
especially
get
if
me
you
wrong.
read about
He
his first. If you read about his first
Well, don't get me
time
wrong.
as
Don't get me wrong. He was a political genius in the
oh
sense of he just by the nature of what he did and where he got. I'm saying compared to the
no, but
charisma of Pompey, and then compared to like that nuts and bolts, like evil political genius, economic genius, that cunning thing. That's Crassus. That cold, cunning maneuver master.
yeah, he was that, and then but if you look at the first time he was consul and what he did as a consul in the first one, also the fact
Well,
that he became the Pontifex Maximus, which
that's the hard one. That's why I say yes. He is a really good like politician in the sense of
yeah he was.
if you get elected to Pontificus Maximus, like it's like the fifth most prestigious station or office in the Roman Empire. But it's also very, I guess, another credit point to Caesar. It's also a very powerful,
Well,
arguably the
like
most powerful
there were like four or five
political spot.
things, or maybe more. There were like 10 things that he did that he would not be able to do if he wasn't the Pontifex Maximus at the time. Uh,
Vetoing was the most powerful because you get to say if like they're like, hey, we're going to march the army. The Pontificus Maximus, which is the high priest, because this is also an ecclesiastical government. Each one of the senators is a pseudo high priest or a bishop, like equivalent.
mhm.
Um, but they're sophists. If the army's ready to march and all the generals and the Senate itself is like, yeah, we're ready to march, we're going to march. The Pontificus Maximus could be like, no, the gods say there's a bad omen, the army does not march, or he could veto law,
Like he could
or
veto law, or
he could pardon his buddies.
not
If
necessarily pardon the body, but what he could do is he could, and I think he did it more than once. He could veto the session from the Senate, and
yes, throw it all
that
out. We're not even meeting
really,
today.
yeah, we're
Bad
not meeting
omen.
today by Omen, and that helped him a lot, especially when Bibulus was trying to do something. In fact, Bibulus just doesn't do anything. Bibulus is the first in Rome. There were two consuls during each year. In the first time he ran as a consul, he won, but the person he was running with lost, and Bibulus hated Caesar. And one of the reasons why he made Bibulus rage quit pretty much from his consul was by invoking the Pontifex Maximus powers, and Bibulus rage quits. Like he doesn't show up until the last day, and then he got pretty much booed and thrown out.
You got to give Crassus points for this too, because he is the facilitator in getting Pompey and Caesar online. I believe Pompey marries like Caesar's daughter-in-law or some kind of niece or relative. So he gets them in line, and theirs is a cordial relationship at first before the falling out. But interestingly enough, when Caesar pulls up to Egypt and finds out that Pompey's been stabbed in the back, his famous line is, "You killed the consul of Rome!"
Yeah.
He was.
Well, he was trying to, when the Battle of Pharsalus, of Pharsalus happened. I think it's Pharsalus or Tarsalus. I don't remember.
Yeah, he's trying to reunify the empire.
He tries to go after Pompey, and people think that he wanted to kill him, but in reality, he wanted to reunite with him so that they could march together into Rome, and he was gonna grant like a full pardon to Pompey.
I actually believe it.
Just to unify the empire. That was his idea of what he wanted to do. But it didn't happen. The whole thing.
Crassus
was dead already.
He arranged. Yeah, I know, and that was, I think, a part of like Caesar taking a step back. Well, Caesar taking a step back and being like, "All right, man, we lost Crassus. I can't stay mad at this dude." Crassus.
No. Crassus died before the. Crassus dies way before the Civil War. It dies at least a couple of years before the Civil War happens.
Oh, okay. I got my timeline fucked up there. What I was going to say too was, but Crassus is still kind of like the hidden hand. He's the technocrat behind the scenes, setting up the meetings between the elites and then funding their campaign. So like a political campaign for Pontificus Maximus costs a pretty penny.
Well, it all costs a lot of money, and even the campaigns they waged cost a lot of money and resources, especially because you have to give the legionnaires, the ones that were going to.
And that's also ultimately what ended up in the downfall of Caesar, because he was trying to make citizens of his foreign legions who weren't viewed as Roman, and then more ironic, especially for us in America today, like the patricians didn't want a couple of legions of foreigners disrupting the whole political and geopolitical balance of everything. And then Caesar's got his own private army in his pocket too.
Yep, that's true. And they wanted to get it, to be fair to Caesar, he did offer a pretty reasonable offer at the end before the crossing of the it's not the Rhine, before crossing the
Danube.
No, it's not
the Rubicon. The
Rubicon. Yeah, before crossing the Rubicon, he offers a pretty reasonable offer, and the Senate declines it, and that's where they start.
Well, I get why they declined it though, because at the end of the day, we are talking about Caesar. There's more to this foreign army. By making them citizens and bringing them in, they need some place to stay, and Rome is packed. It's at capacity. Caesar wanted to redistribute patrician lands to the plebeians, specifically his new army citizens.
He didn't want to do that, but what happened? He offered to get rid of all but one of the legions, and what they were going to happen is they were going to go. The legions that were there were going to fall either into I think it was Pompey. They were going to fall into Pompey's hands, and I think two of them were going to get disbanded anyway. But what happened instead is that he kept his whole army and just marched down the Rubicon. And I think that's an
underrated thing. It's a big deal because of the nature of imperator or emperor, what would become the title of emperor. And like Roman law, the army was not allowed to cross into city limits.
No, it was not allowed to cross the. If you were outside of Rome, you were not allowed to cross the Rubicon into Rome. That was the first.
No, there was actually
war.
there
And
was
then the second act of war was crossing of the perimeter of the city. I don't remember the name of the of.
No, I don't either. But there's a specific marker, and in order to march the army through the city, the army would have to pull up literally to the edge of the marker and like unanimously declare their commander Imperator, and then a runner from the guard.
They were given in the triumphs. So
they had to run. It was still an act of the Senate. There was a whole democratic process for it to report back if you would be given this parade or not, and then you had a day to march your army through the town. This is the equivalent of going to Disneyland for the Super Bowl in Roman culture, and it's probably why
better than that, considering that to like. I don't even remember, but I think very few of the emperors actually got a triumph.
And what makes this conversation, this back and forth, even though to some in the audience it might seem like we're just blathering about Rome, understanding like the political trichotomy at the individual level where persona and personality and desire come in. This crawled up fucking Pompey's butt, dude. He wanted a triumvirate. Or excuse me, he wanted his triumvirate parade, his triumph parade, and the title of Imperator, because that was literally where all this came.
No, Pompey got it. The one that wanted it was Caesar. Caesar got robbed of his triumph in the first.
Pompey got his. What I'm getting at is at the individual level, it was against the Senate law to let a plebeian to have such an honor in the first place. So
none of them were plebeians. They were all.
Crassus and Pompey were plebes.
No, Pompey was not a plebe.
I'm telling you, full stop. I'm telling you, full stop.
Okay. I have to check that because I'm sure he wasn't. He was considered. His name was Pompey Maximus, and it was because of.
It's because they changed the laws and gave him a triumvirate.
Let's see.
It was a big motivating because Pompey was Pompey of the people. He came from a pretty both him. It's funny because both you could look at it in the sense of they're supposed to be the patricians, but they're really the elite left.
He was a prodigy of Sulla, makes sense. He was part of the senatorial nobility.
He's still patrician born.
Born in Picenum. He was assassinated, that makes sense. A Provincial noble called Genius Pompeius Strabo, after the dominant family of Byzantium, Strabo was the first of his brand to achieve senatorial status in Rome. No, he was part of. Yes, he could. No, you cannot. You couldn't. There was no way.
They changed the law. They changed the law for him. I'm telling you.
Changed the law.
This is why he is in the collectivist teloi.
No,
I'm telling you.
You got them wrong. They're backwards.
Caesar was the
and Caesar was the collectivist.
Did I say patrician? I meant he's the plebe. He's the plebe. Caesar's born of a low status patrician family, but he leaned and used the populist left, the plebes, as his political bulwark. He
as a collectivist.
Well, that's being a politician. I
agree, but the way that they did
that was the way it was done. He was the going to be, his goal was he was going to be the people's emperor. But the whole arrangement of him and Pompey together, set up by Crassus, was to try to get Caesar to get some of that people love, get some of that charisma of the people rubbed off on him.
There's a lot, but I think they're backwards. I think the one that is a collectivist is Caesar.
We'll just do this the easy way. I'm just going to ask Google straight up, and we'll just get through it.
Because
was Pompey a plebeian.
Because he was right when he was fighting for the nobility,
Yes,
especially at
Pompey
the
the
end.
Great. Check this out. Yes, Pompey the Great, Pompeius Magnus, was born into the plebeian family, specifically from the Italian region of Picunum. While his family was not of the ancient elite patrician nobility, his father, Nossus Pompus Strabo,
Strabo.
achieved senatorial status and became a consul, making Pompey's family part of the newer influential Roman elite. So he's the new money elite left that, because of his success, and you could argue it's whether it's nailing Spartacus to a cross or
That was Crassus.
I think it was Pompey under order of Crassus.
That was Crassus. Pompey conquers Greece.
Pompey was actually a competent military commander.
Pompey was an incredible military commander. He conquers Greece. Mm-hmm. Crassus quells the rebellion from Spartacus.
Yeah, he thought that gave him inches on his Who-Man, and it became an obsession for Crassus. All he wanted to do was the Roman thing and go carve out his little notch of the empire, and like all of his money went into it. He put everything into it just to get clapped on day one, basically.
Okay, let's move on real quick. Just here,
yeah, we gotta keep it rolling.
So, we have the individualist. I think the most important part of this is free speech, privacy rights, civil liberties, libertarian economics, property rights to regulation, emphasis on personal choice. We have the left, which is redistribution of wealth, resources to create more level playing field, anti-discrimination measures, civil rights, equity efforts, social safety nets, movements for racial justice, gender equality, all of these BS rights. And then we have the traditionalist. And I thought this was very interesting because you mentioned that traditionalist doesn't mean they have to hold themselves to the past, but they hold themselves to ideas that are working. And even though they can amend them, they are still trying to figure out how exactly they fit into the way of life, instead of just throwing them away and thinking of the new thing. So it pretty much says tradition can be understood as an evolving conversation, a historical community of practice that continually tests and refines its own standards and values. But this account tradition is not reactionary so much as is careful, integrational search for stability and order in face of uncertainty. And I think those two, like these, pretty much tell us the basic ideals from the individualists, the absolutists, and the collectivists. This is where we're talking about the no Cartesian space, and you're talking about the two dimensions, and you have equality plus addition equals k, and then you do k minus liberty minus equality. I need you to give me these in an equation form so that it makes sense. Because I was a little bit lost. This is 20, and you're talking about a specific plot when it comes to you're giving an equation of how to plot yourself into this system.
Right. It's on the other notes. There's like a whole liberty, equality, tradition, like table schematic. And it's basically it's pretty rudimentary. It's basically set up like a true false table on like the virtues you hold, or the telos you hold. Are you more prone towards liberty? Are you more prone towards egalitarianism or tradition? And you can fill it. I'd have to.
Yeah, we have to.
we'll double back down on that later when we get into more of the psychology and the biology and then the structural demographic theory.
We're talking about political trichotomy. We see again equity, too much equity, too little equity. I like the examples, like you mentioned.
This is the part of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just gonna say that I like the way that you made it, like the Khmer Rouge.
The Khmer Rouge. Most people like it. It is remarkable to me when I went through like world history and U.S. history and shit in high school. Just everything that they leave out. Like it's like, you know, we hear about the shitty things of imperialism and capitalism, blah blah blah. You're like, you know, beaten to death. Even when I was a kid and before shit was woke, it was still kind of leaning one way already. And you don't ever hear about the Khmer Rouge or other communist atrocities like in Africa, centering like Ethiopia with the Dirge, or the failed socialist revolutions of the Middle East, which birthed radical Islam as the reactionary tool to fight the communists. They just tripled down in Islam, got all the communists out, and boom, now we're stuck. The earth is stuck with militant Muslims. So it's just a shame that you never hear about Pol Pot and like stories of children going to fingermen and ratting on their own parents, and then the fucking commissars or whoever, the secret police, would come and, you know, hey little kid, very nice, you get a chocolate. Not really, because they're commies. There's no chocolate. You'd get a little pat on the head, good boy, and a good boy token. And then they drag your mom off into the woods and fucking put a bullet in her head.
Well, to be fair, they got the whole family. So,
no, they kept the kids. Like, you ratted on the kid, and the kids just went along with it. Like, mom was a fucking political traitor. Fuck her. It was sick.
I'm just saying that there was they also did the kid. It was.
Oh yeah. It was especially like the when, because this happened. Imagine like the government changes tomorrow, and then the day after tomorrow, on every street in every village, like military trucks start showing up, starting with the inner city and starting with the elites, and not just like the power ballers with money, but like the doctors, the lawyers, the artists, anything that could be possibly conceived as the intellectual class. And you're all put in the bus, and then you're all driven out in the middle of fucking nowhere and told, there's your rake, there's your shovel, there's your hoe, you're farmers now. And at the same time, these people naturally have a resistance to this. So in the process of doing this, you eliminate minimum half of them. So now your country doesn't have any doctors, lawyers, positions.
I have a story about that, because from the wholeness of the whole country, only 3 lawyers survive during the Khmer Rouge.
I mean, it got as bizarre as, like, there's a story of an optometrist, and like he had his glasses on, and he got noticed like smuggling his glasses into his pocket, and then he's accosted like, why the fuck do you have glasses? Just having glasses could have gotten you accused and executed, because that's the sign of an intellectual. So it really, this is that nihilism that becomes satanic.
That we'll have the Soviet collectivization during the kulaks. I agree with that. Too little equity. We have the caste system in India and apartheid in South Africa, which is just hierarchical and restricting systems. When it comes to freedom, too much freedom, we have the Wild West in the 19th century. Makes sense. Or the Somali Civil War. Again, that makes sense to me. Too little freedom.
Just real quick, you said the Wild West. It brings it because this can be a cyclical system. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Russian Federation goes into its individual, it backticks and goes individualistic. So now they're in this mafia controlled thing. Wild West also equals means like mafia rule.
Mafia. Well, you can say Mexico is parts of Mexico are like the Wild West right now. There's no actual institutions. You know, the cartels, which is the mafia, are the ones ruling it. You have too much freedom. Okay, too little freedom. We have depression in the post-revolution Iran, which they're experiencing a little bit of freedom right now, and oppression under communist regimes, the 20th century. That makes sense as well. And then the too much stability or tradition, the Sokoku in feudal Japan, which is a very interesting time when we see the whole isolationism from Japan and the Qing dynasty and isolationism, which also was very interesting. And they do you know about the Opium Wars, that they just lost it because the people guarding the post and they were supposed to alert the armies, they were just so high on opiums.
Yeah, the drugs, like drugs and alcohol to cultures that don't have drugs and alcohol are absolutely a nuclear weapon.
And then, this is why it's important. Like, there's a lot of people that are like, well, just let everybody take drugs. And it's like, no, it destroys civilization. You cannot allow it.
Yeah, there's a reason why they give the death penalty for the shit over there.
Yes. And then too little stability tradition, residential schools in Canada. Where do you get that? Because I'm not entirely sure what you mean by the residential schools in Canada.
This is where they found all the mass graves of little kids.
Okay, I'm not entirely sure.
It's still kind of contested, but in university, it's literally lectured as an atrocity.
Yeah, but I think it's kind of contested.
And I put a caveat on that. That was pre-woke, and it's like a lot of people don't like to talk about it, but it's kind of an atrocity. It is an atrocity of the Catholic Church. There was gross negligence. It wasn't to say that there was some like evil Nurse Hatchet or Munchausen syndrome mother that abused these kids to death. It was a situation of like gross neglect and institutional breakdown.
Okay.
At these Catholic orphanages. And it's considered a crime because the kids were taken from their native parents and communities as kind of a forced integration program. We're going to raise you. You're going to be educated and raised by the Jesuits, and you're going to integrate into the Canadian British Empire.
Yeah, I heard about that. I would still think it's. I'm not ready to give it to the leftists. I think that's contested.
That's why I hate the culture war so much. They've taken so much history from us.
I will say that the revolution in China and the Weimar Republic in Germany are good examples of too little stability or tradition. Especially the Cultural Revolution in China, that was insane. That you could get deleted if your name was a traditional Chinese name. Like, people were changing their names to like almost every week so that they would not fall into.
What this model also points out is the poorest of the poor are the right populists. And so then you understand why a couple of things happen in communist regimes. One, Christians have to be ethnically cleansed or genocided. Two, the peasants got to go, or they got to be starved to death. Can't have these fucking peasants loyal to their God and loyal to their king.
Yeah.
And it happens whether we're talking about the potato famine, whether we're talking about
the taters.
Yeah, because all that is the fallout of the Catholic Protestant thing. And then this situation with the rise of the Red Army, and just Mao was a monster that didn't wear deodorant or brush his teeth. He was a Coomer fucking chomo. And all these dudes, when you look at them at their core, exhibit all four cluster B traits, and they're little mini antichrists. But continue.
The all of this table, I think, is very, very interesting. I think it's fair. Like,
Yeah, this is
justification.
great.
It makes sense to me as a presupposition. Like, we're not going into presupposition, but if you are really presupposing that you can have, for example, axioms, I think this is perfect. The only question I had here is on the big five personality traits. I see agreeableness, openness, and conscientiousness, but there's two missing. So, neuroticism and oh god, what is the second one?
Openness,
conscientiousness.
neuroticism and OC.
Hey man, you look good.
A-N-E. Extroversion, introversion.
Extroversion, yes. I want to know what is the role of those when it comes to the Telos model. Like, are they
it's on my map. They left them out. I have them mapped. It's 360-degree wheel that maps on, like, all these triangles you'll see we'll be able to make a sandwich out of. And where you are on one layer, you're also on the same spot on the other layer.
So I think this is very, if you want to see like a way that you can just get them.
There's a slide
very easily. No, I mean, if you want to have like a compressed way of
slide 100 slide 110. That's the compass.
I get it. Let me finish my thought real quick. If you want to have like a good way to understanding each of the different sides and what they're going for, like in the philosophical idea, this table is really good. It really gives you everything, right? The sacred components, the phobias, the king language, all of it is very, very interesting. I really enjoyed it. And then we move to the Overton window. I do have one thing. You put them all together and there's no way in the middle. I still think that the church is in the middle, but I get what you're saying when it comes to the Overton window. Is the points in the real world.
In the profane world, that's also that's kind of cool. There's a really cool like punk rock video called "Death to the World." That's about orthodoxy. I don't know if you've seen it. I highly recommend this to everybody. "Death to the World," and it is
probably watch it later.
It's a very entertaining video. And out of this concept, this is the world, and for me, the church transcends it. Like. And here's the shivering truth. Not everybody's in the church. Oh
no, the church is here, and the people in the church are here, and then everybody else is all around. So I'm pretty sure not everybody's in the church.
Yeah. And people can take that as they will, but if you ain't, I'm not even fully in the church, and it pains me. You ain't in the church. You ain't in the church.
Yeah, yeah. I will say. Yeah, I understand what you mean, and that makes sense to me. This is just you're talking about the Overton window, which is the amount of change that is allowed within the telos in general society.
It's a governor. It's a governor for acceleration and braking. All conservatism is, at the end of the day, are brakes. So, like, we have our ideas, what we think a conservative is, but this also kind of highlights the failure of Western conservatism at large, in the sense of you were conserving liberalism. A conservative is just the conservative of whatever the model of the nation state is.
I think that's a misnomer. Like, the problem that I see is they've been trying to get us. Well,
there's counterculture.
In the schematics, it has been the idea that we have to conserve. Like, the individualists and the collectivists, they tell us, well, you're trying to conserve individualism, and they try to get us to the idea of nihilism in our sense by doing that, but what we're actually doing is we're trying to conserve the framework in which we were able to have the capacity of being pretty much mercantilist. So we're
And for me, that looks like a brake pedal, a huge brake pedal against the never-ending progress.
I think what we're gonna see is a move back. I don't think it's gonna be directly again towards conservatism, but I think it's gonna be moving towards the military mercantilism. Yeah, we're gonna go, but we are moving towards military mercantilism right now, and we see it in how Trump is even acting.
Well, I think we're starting to feel that now. I think the triangle is starting to spin and point towards that direction. Mm-hmm. That looks like the power stroke.
There's one more thing I would like to add that I don't think we have added. Like there is the underlying economical systems, but I think it would be very interesting to see how they interlace in as their own circles when it comes to the triad. Because
I thought that, and I'm still kind of fiddling with some of that. But so far, where I'm at is collectivism is really so lame at the end of the day that it's stupid, and it's stupid simple, really too. You know how I hate simple things, though. But it's literally there is only one product, and the consumer has to be brutalized, conditioned, or gulagged into consuming the product of the state, this one product. Mm-hmm. And it creates a whole like train wreck, like a train slamming on the brakes where all the cars start fucking derailing behind it, of supply and demand, and then you literally end up in bread lines and then counter-revolution. Like that's like the wall at the tip of the triangle, why you can never like blast out of it. That's the bread line.
I think this is what I think that is going to be interesting, because I think they invert. I think there is an inversion of the economical systems in each one of them. So the individualists become collectivists when it comes to the economic sense, and then the absolutists are more individualists when it comes to the economic sense, and then the collectivists become absolutists when it comes to the economic sense. And I think there is like this inversion of the way that they move in the economy, which I find fascinating. And that's why I thought it was a good idea to bring it out.
No, it is a good idea, and I'm actually absolutely loving this. The hair on the back of my neck is standing up. For me, I guess how I would respond to that is at the fulcrum. See where the circles kiss on the middle points of the edge of the triangle, of the greater triangle? So in between individualism and collectivism is technocracy, technocrats.
Yes.
And if you pay attention to technocrats, you can't really tell if they're like uber venture capitalists or goose-stepping commies at the end of the day. It's fucking weird. And I think this has something to do with Plato's Republic, and like the idea of the wise council. It's oligarchical. It's like the individualist circle, but that boundary around the greater individualist circle. Mm-hmm. That's the domain of the oligarchy, of the reigning oligarchy or aristocracy. In each teloid, the collectivist circle. Once you blow out of one circle into the other, now you're in the reign of either the polity, if it's virtuous, or a democracy, if it's degenerated. And then same for the absolute when it comes to having a monarch or a tyrant. And where the circles kiss is this weird fulcrum point where the actors that occupy those regions they can either exhibit some of the best traits of two of the teloi that are like intersecting or overlapping or kissing,
Mhm.
or they can exhibit the worst traits of both of those teloi, or they can exhibit obviously a hybrid range of positive and negative traits that exist in both teloi, an admixture hybrid state. So it really, for me, I'm not surprised that the system doesn't know. When you have transgenders running around screaming the Marxist dialectic and espousing all this socialism, that's my smoking gun of like the technocrat influence, because you have a trans person that can't recognize their whole being, their persona is literally given to them by the individualists, every facet of it, from the gender, from an environment that will even accept or entertain such an idea as a man being a woman in the market of ideas, or the technological ability to be able to produce said transition even. And this all comes out of like the gender acceleration papers from technocrats, literally saying, we're basically, what we want to do is we want to cut your wiener off. That way you become the ultimate coomer and consumer. Free of your natural coom, your natural drive and desire. You have nothing. You are the body without organs. And in that state, we can sell you a persona, we can sell you your material goods, and we can sell you an identity. It's the most satanic thing I've ever read from them. And they're blaming this all, like the socialists writing it, they're blaming this all on individualism. But at the same time, they're acknowledging this is the vehicle to topple the capitalist machine. Because at the end of the day, they're trying to judo throw capitalism.
Yep.
They are trying to use capitalism's desire to basically trick capitalism into eating everything around it to where it runs out of gas. There's no more food. There's no more money. And then create a system of irony or exposure to turn everybody against capitalism.
But that will come with the inversion as well, because as I said, like if you go to the inversion of the
I think it's just schizophrenic that has to do with that those colored lines, the red one. Hold on. Those red, green, and yellow, or red, blue, and yellow lines. The republicanism, the totalitarianism, and the absolutism. So that totalitarian force senses it's in trouble, right? The absolute is pissed off, and the absolute is a threat. Like the side of the go up to.
I'm up. I know what you're doing.
No, there is one that points. Let me pull mine. Boom, shakalaki. Slide numero. It's before the philosophers.
No, we're in the definition.
Shit, you just go to slide 7. The main map.
Are you going all the way to the? Oh, no.
No, just remember where you are. Go to slide 7, and you'll see the lower triangle, right? Mm-hmm. Communism, and this is like why we always point out, like the libertarian, for instance, doesn't know the difference between a Nazi and a communist. You see how all they see is totalitarianism. They just see the goose-stepping boots. The absolutist, and this also explains like things like anti-Semitism even, doesn't know the difference between the collective and the individual at the end of the day. It just sees degenerate fucking hedonistic commies that need to be swinging from trees. And it can't tell the difference. And the communist can't tell the difference between a libertarian and a king. The point is, and why I'm having you look at that little repulsion schematic, is the totalitarian force is the only force that can balance out a individualistic Tellaway that's either gone out of control, like assuming too much power, wealth, and prestige into itself, to where it's just it's dominating the other two Tellaway. So totalitarianism is set forward to limit the individual and break that up and restore the balance. If communism, if the collective Tellaway, if Caterva gets out of control, then we sick Darwinism against her. That's the forces of progress and reaction. We sick that reactionary force against her. The individualists and the absolutists team up and say, fuck that. And then, like America, for instance, the Puritan collectivists and the rum-running pirate, slave-trading individualists had enough of the king's bullshit and teamed up and toppled that force. So when the system feels an emergent threat, if two Tellaway and America is very much a collectivist, individualist, a hybrid state right now, whenever, and they usually team up in a cycle when they're weak or when they need to team up to topple another that's become too strong. If one of them becomes too weak, it might go to another one and be like, help me out. I need to maintain control. And then if they get used to this symbiotic relationship of power and control, if the third Tellaway is like, no, this ain't working right for my people, I need to do something about it, then they become their hybrid thing becomes schizophrenic, and it starts firing out mixed messages. Yeah, it's hard to pin it down in one corner or the other, because it's doing everything it can to maintain power.
I understand what you mean. This is exemplified, by the way, if you want to go into a literature work in 1984 by Orwell, when he's talking about the axis of power. He is exemplifying that specific reaction with forces. It says that when one is like about to win, they would usually end up teaming with the other person, and they will wage war against the one that is winning, even if they were allies like 5 seconds before.
So we get into what's going on now with like Russia and China and attacking their proxies, because China is the greater threat, dealing with Russia as the third threat, because historically speaking, the number 3 is the one who's in line for the hegemon. In the game theory models, the number 1 and number 2 clash. Either the number 1 defends its throne and stays king of the hill, or it's toppled, and sometimes the number 2 takes place. But a very real historical norm is both the number 1 and number 2 exhaust themselves in the struggle, and then the number 3, like America once upon a time, becomes the next hegemon.
I don't think we're gonna see that specifically right now, and it has to do with other reasons. But what I was saying is, when you have this kind of what I find really interesting is if you have the same thing, but you invert, like you move it to literally move it. We have an inversion of the thing, and that is like the economic. I see that as the economic system. So if I go back, here, I still see like the individualist, the absolutist, and the collectivist, but I have to move it to get the economic system from each one. And I think that's interesting when it comes to the inversion of the model. So at the end of the day, if you're trying to go to a super individualistic state, you will find that the economy is collectivist. So
whenever we get into the 6 pillars of culture and civilization, I think that'll highlight what you're saying there, actually, because 2 of the Tellaway have like a mercantile nature. The collectivist one doesn't.
Let me go ahead and see. The telos is like the idea behind it. I'm gonna so it's to reflect the nature of the telos, the model, the military and lawful foreign being the order-based telos. The equity telo represents unions, economic, political. Last is the liberty telo, is associated with the market institutions and trade. There's obviously overlap. I can agree with that. Material holds that all 3 forms institutions are necessary for functioning culture, civilization. Each telo is an order-greater being that is society. There are 3 parts of the whole. And you're pretty much saying that the way that we look at these is like social beings that are working at the same time together and at the same time against each other to create civilization, which makes sense to me.
Yep.
A civilization could have dominant telo traits, liberty, equality, order, but all three telo must represent and work together in order to form a healthy civilization manifest. I agree with this. I would say that the way they do it is through Christian. The best way to do it is through Christian ethics. Otherwise, you cannot have ethics, and it's just it becomes a power of whoever is at the top. And then social, national, and cultural values are maximized when the three telo working in synergy with each other. And in this harmony, conflict, economic, cultural, racial, and religious conflicts are the maximum, resulting in civil unrest, wars, and societal collapse. And then we have the superstructure, which is republicanism, Darwinism, and totalitarianism, which is when you have mixture of the points. And I think most of the systems in the world are actually in this area.
In modernity, yes, but like the ancient world is in the southern hemisphere, and a lot of it, like the Spartans.
No, I would still say that it was
Rome during its Republican. Rome during its Republican era.
Yeah, it was totalitarian. It was not collectivist. No, it was totalitarianism.
No, I'm saying yes by default, yes, because you can't be a collectivist or an absolutist without being.
What I'm saying is the points become hell, and you cannot stay in hell. So what happens is what you find in places is you actually see them in one of these three sides. It's usually totalitarianism in models that last for a long time.
Yes, that's actually in like Strauss Hall's. No, it's actually a part. It's not listed in structural demographic theory, but when you look at the longevity of certain empires before their collapse, that's where they are. And then Oswald Spengler in The Rise and Fall of the West, or the setting of the sun of the West in German, he just outright says it. The Brown Age, or the fall period, is the most stable period. There is a decline in like technological, cultural, and like spiritual, metaphysical, religious, and like psychological, philosophical development, but things are ordered. Things are so orderly, and there's more prosperity in the sense there's more prosperity through the order. Yeah. And that's when, like, it's also coincidentally enough, like the breakdown has happened, and during like the individualist or collectivist cycle. So when it kicks into after those collapse, that's also the beginning of imperial cycles. So it's like these people think they're going to collapse America, who's been through an individualist and collective cycle, and they're going to get to the dictatorship of the proletariat. Dude, you're high. It's not what history is revealing.
The problem with Darwinism, for example, is that it's unstable. So it's so unstable that it's going to move to an absolutist because you're getting the best of the best. So at the end of the day, this is a very unstable process that's going to.
But remember the breakdown, because the breakdown through the nihilism, and it's a narcissistic form of nihilism, as far as the superorganism itself. It becomes narcissistic. Blonde hair. Everybody's got to have blonde hair and blue eyes.
Yes.
And this creates a similarity in like symmetry, but a difference in like geometry. So the left, there's that one product that's got to be consumed, or you're brutally consumed into it, or brutally conditioned into consuming it. Mm-hmm. The absolutist thing.
What I'm saying is they're very unstable. This is very unstable. This cannot last. Republicanism is also very unstable, but it lasts longer than Darwinism, and then totalitarianism is just very stable. So when we see history, in timeline, we see this pop out every now and again, and then they might even become like very interesting, very great moments, but they're very momentary, and then they move directly into totalitarianism.
or Republicans, but the that start and part of that is too like the Darwinistic cycle. These are your Wild West, or what Oswald Spengler would call your Merovingian cycle.
Yeah. What is the live-in hell unstable? You're going to have to break that one down in detail. What? Okay.
Which part?
What the live-in hell unstable? Are you going to have to break down in detail? You can go ahead and look at the republics, for example, of the past. You can see how stable the republics of the past were. You can talk about Rome. You can talk about Greece. They were not very stable for a long period of time. Instead,
look at the Weimar Republic. Shit.
Instead, what we see is totalitarianism was extremely stable, especially for Rome, for example. It was like a lot more stable. And then we have Darwinism. Darwinism is, for example, not the Weimar Republic, but when you have one of the fascistic regimes are very Darwinistic, and they are very unstable because they're trying to figure out what is the best. They create like the best of the best in a sense, and they start moving towards absolutism.
Well, actually, the Weimar Republic is at the intersection of individualists. Now that I think about it, so it had the worst of the Darwin, and it had the worst of the Republic.
Yes, yeah, I would say that. So, this is where two political superstructures meet and the political extreme occurs. Political extremes are countered by the opposite political superstructure. Darwinism counters communism, which makes sense. Stalinism counters anarcho-capitalism. Republicanism counters Tsarism. Political superstructures of republicanism. I like the axioms. The first axiom of the Republic says that they are either capitalist, socialist, or some form of hybrid. And the second axiom, republics, is that the rule and order of individuals are heavily comprised of people who are individualist and collectivist. And the symbols are very interesting. You have the Roman Empire. You have I think that's
the Roman Republic. That's Republic. The imperial eagle is the imperial standard is different. It's still an eagle, but it's different.
We have the United States symbol, and
I want to put a caveat on that too. The just with emperor. So during the beginning of Rome, during the era of the 7 wicked kings, that really left a bad taste in like the Roman mimetic being, the Roman mimetic superstructure, which fueled like the Roman culture. So even when they crushed that, killed them, and became a republic. When Caesar puts on the red shoes and marches through Rome with purple veils and enough purple silk to bust bankrupt the economy, they saw that as a gross overstep. Brutus really was Caesar's friend. I don't think he really wanted to be a part of like killing his friend, but at the same time he had all the other patricians busting his balls because he was a Brutus. He was from an elite, well-to-do, recognized and ancient patrician family, and he was taken by one of the other conspirators to his like great super great grandfather's statue, and it was like, your grandfather was a part of the men who defeated the last of the 7 wicked kings and helped us start this beautiful republic. Your duty, like Caesar might be your friend, but your duty is to Rome and the Republic. You have to take part in the conspiracy. You know, history plays out. Octavian later becomes emperor. Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting because
there's still this scar in the Roman memeplex, to where, for all intents and purposes, we're acknowledging we're going to have a king, essentially, but
we're not going to call him a king.
Mm-hmm. But we're not going to call him a king because we have a disdain for such titles. So we'll give you the military title of victorious commander, imperator. You're the emperor
for life.
And your kids can have it. This is where it gets interesting. Your kids can have a shot at the throne, but really, how succession goes is by the will and leisure of the Senate, and then later on, based on those laws of like the army can't enter Rome, there's always a workaround. We'll stand up the Patreon Guard later towards mid to the end of the empire. It becomes that middle point of Darwinism. The Patreon Guard is the one later becomes the body that says who is and who ain't going to be emperor, to include later on plebeians.
Yeah, the Praetorian Guard, but yes.
And that's how the plebes got in, because they had a lot of money.
Yes. The political superstar Darwinism, the first axiom Darwinistic states that they are either capitalist, autocratic, or some form of hybrid. The second axiom Darwinistic states is that the ruling order of individuals are heavily comprised of people who are individualist and absolutist. And then the totalitarianism, first axiom totalitarian states that they're either socialist, autocratic, or some form of hybrid. And the second axiom is totalitarian states is that the ruling order individuals are heavily comprised of people who are collectivist and absolutist. Mm-hmm.
I want to take a second to appreciate that picture.
That's a great picture.
That is an awesome fucking picture, dude.
And I enjoy that it's a meme on Naruto.
Oh wow! That I mean, you could throw Naruto into my pop culture memetics. For sure. I'm done with this.
I think I'm going to pass only descriptors of likeness to the scar function unless it's trying to market something. You're not understanding what we're talking about, but you can pass, okay? Have a good one. So this is just the idea of how it works. I think interestingly enough, if absolute right of kings are strong to rule, individual survival of the fittest, winners to rule. Consensus rule, competition is unfair, the weak and losers have enfranchisement. I think the interesting part is the one that is impossible is like it's when they're talking about the ideal of, right?
Mm-hmm.
A state is the leader who submits to nothing. It's like very republicanist. Self-governance of individuals, like that is the individualist totalitarianist. Is like the way that individualists are trying to govern themselves. That's the.
Yep.
That's
so I like that. I like this table because you can use it to kind of see where you're at as an individual, and you can kind of see where your nation state is at by looking. This is like looking at the superposition from two angles, whether you're going to look at it from the perspective of one of the fulcrums or whether you're going to look at it from the perspective of one of the what do you call it, the pinnacle, or the it'll come to me later, something that you call the point of a triangle.
And
radius.
This is where we'll stop today. We've gone a long way.
Yeah, dude, we're 5%. Congratulations, everybody.
Congratulations.
You've taken 5% of Poundtown.
No, I don't think it's 5. I would take like 10% of Poundtown. Jesus.
It stays interesting to me, actually. It's just, I like this process. I appreciate you hosting this. It's a lot, but I think, application-wise, what's the point?
One of the things that I find very interesting about the whole political, philosophy, in a way, is the descriptor of a thing, and I really vibe with how you set it up, in the sense of, it makes a lot more sense that the dichotomy. So I used to say, and I still say it because I think it's true, that I'm not when people call me a Nazi, I would tell them I'm not a socialist. I'm not a socialist. That's right. Always the thing that I say. But it makes a lot more sense in the differences between a communist and a Nazi if you see them in this kind of in this triumvirate shape. Yeah. So you can see the actual differences between them.
But it's a double-edged sword, because what that does then is it also lets them, and the reason why I think a lot of people hate this shit, like especially on the left, is it also shows them that them Nazis are closer to them than Mussolini.
Yeah, we're very yeah, they are. And it's very interesting.
I mean, the distance between, let's say, the ethnocentric Chinese Communist Party. What does he mean by ethnocentric Chinese Communist Party? I mean Han people. Mm-hmm. If you ain't Han, you ain't Chinese. China doesn't allow for immigration. You ain't gonna see no black Chinese. You ain't gonna see no white Chinese. You ain't gonna see no like native South American Chinese. You ain't gonna see no Arab Chinese. It's not gonna happen. That's how close they are because of that totalitarian thing. You can't have a mass collective unless you have systems that homogenize people. And the only way to homogenize people outside of ethnos, outside of ethnicity, is civically.
Yes,
and this is why I am a huge proponent of civic nationalism over ethnic nationalism, because I think that back to the absolutist thing, or when you hit where Darwinism and totalitarianism intersect, you end up with, now that's not to say that I think black people, white people, yellow people don't fucking matter. I think any ethnic group should be entitled to its own ethnic conclave. There should be white neighborhoods. There should be black neighborhoods. There should be Asian neighborhoods.
Well,
but we can also have, voluntarily rendered whatever neighborhoods. I'll call it admixture neighborhoods. I like that better.
I don't think that's possible. I think that there's only two possibilities. Okay, you can have.
Oh, if it wasn't possible, Rome would have never happened.
Rome happened because the way that they first off, the way that they homogenized the culture was through the force of the state, and by being the cultural idealism was to be Roman, right? So it
was a process of emulating this ethnic group of Etruscan Latins that were the patricians. That's what it meant to be a Roman citizen. You mirrored them.
This is an empire, and the patricians were on top of the empire, and what they do is use force, and they will collect taxes from other provinces that were not the Roman ones, and they will allow them to have their own ethnicity, because during the only time in history that we have not been ethnostates is been in the past 5 minutes. So every single part of them were actual ethnostates. If you went
but it broke down. It broke down. Guess who broke it down? And this is why Marx espouses, what's his quote? He says, when it comes to free markets and free trade, he's acknowledging. I'm not going to quote it, but he's acknowledging that yes, we acknowledge the atrocities that come out of this system, and then he puts but this system of free trade is the deterritorializing force. Nowhere on earth, and this is where I'm going to try to paraphrase, nowhere on earth has the power of the king, the power of the church, the power of the collective organism or the in-group been busted up so efficiently as that of the individualist capitalist force. He says in that sense, I favor free markets. But what he's really doing in his manifesto is he's saying, this is the entry point. This is the string we got to tug at. This is how you accelerate capitalism. And this is why a lot of these people are on the left are like capitalist accelerationists, which also adds to that schizophrenization of Teloi, to where you can't identify if the technocrat is a Maoist or a fucking Adam Smith fucking capitalist.
Correct, but once again, what I'm saying is that you will find, like, he's saying that this is the easiest way. The easiest way to get into power is to appeal to the individualist, because you never know when the wind is blowing, right?
Oh yeah,
You can't convince them because they have no ethical morality. They just think about themselves in a sense.
They even narrow down specific individualist, the female variety, and they do that in Orwell. Orwell does that. He said the females are particularly rabid or whatever. It's been forever.
Yeah, but
1984.
That's not the reason why. The reason why they are is because the way that we
they're
work.
simps.
No, the way that we work it out, the way that morality has been worked out in society has been through enforcement of shame from a lot for a lot of time.
Yeah.
And the people that do the best kind of shaming is a woman. Okay, so
yes.
they have been enforcements of moral axiomatic. Well, not axiom. The way that they do it is they do the shaming. Why do you think most of the, when we talk about the Karen as the archetype, is just a shame enforcement individual that is.
So what do you think I'm going to say? Where does that shame become motivated from? Out of the female nature.
What do you mean motivated from? I just think that it's part of the social structure. Because they have the key.
Yeah. So, like in the ocean model, right? I have a wheel.
It's neuroticism.
Can we go to just real quick? Because I don't want to open Christmas presents before the next Poundtown session.
We're not going to, and I haven't gone all the way to there. So
no. But I just want just a little sneaky peeky. For those that give them a little something more. Can you go to slide 110?
Yeah.
Let's see here.
That's neuroticism, right?
Yeah. So the definition of neuroticism is the inability to control one's emotions. You just let your emotions hang. Everybody knows. Anybody can empathize off you and knows what you're feeling because you just make it too easy. And women are from the clinical position that we can survey and that we have surveyed in great bodies of works. Women are the more neurotic creature.
Yes, but the neuroticism it has a purpose. The purpose is they have to correct the behavior of the offspring, and they do it. They usually do it in the way that they have more access to, which is emotional first, and that expands into everything else. So shaming is an emotional tactic. If you and it's way better to use the emotional tactic of shaming first before you use the force tactic of lashing, for example. So it makes sense that you to be clear though. That.
To be clear with this wheel and this part of the map and like understanding of triumvirate theory is that none of these neuroticism. You can even look at like antagonistic. You can look at introversion. None of these are a negative feature. You absolutely highlight that. These arrive fully emergent in, when I say evolutionarily evolved, I'm not talking about Darwin evolutionary evolved. I'm talking about ontological, teleological, and epistemologically evolved. As far as like purpose and function. This
when we're
is
talking
the positive. This is just like the positive nodal point or mapping of personality. So everybody is going to be mapped into this wheel. There is a negative wheel, an engine, and that's the degenerated engine. And both of these kind of operate in parallel with each other.
We'll talk
as-
about it next time because
as a toroidal force.
yeah,
If
we're gonna
anybody understands what a toroidal is.
we can talk about it next time. I'm gonna go ahead and open
No, yeah.
for people if they want to ask questions about this. Emma